Have you ever looked at something you were about to throw away? And wondered, what if this could live again? Welcome to Revive Nature, where forgotten things find a second life. In today's video, we'll dive into DIY trash garden ideas. Turning bottles, old doors, and even coconut shells into breathtaking garden art. Every idea here has a timestamp, so feel free to jump to what inspires you most. And if you have questions or your own upcycled masterpiece to share, drop it in the comments. This space is built for dreamers like you. Because what you're about to see isn't just recycling. It's reimagining beauty from what the world has left behind. Maybe to you, I'm just another voice behind the screen. But behind this channel lives a small story, a family, and a dream. This isn't just a video. It's a heartbeat made of hope. Every like, every comment, every subscribe, it keeps this dream alive. When you click subscribe, you're not just following a creator. You're helping a vision grow roots, one click, one seed at a time. Thank you for watching. Thank you for believing in Revive Nature. In a quiet English-style backyard, morning sunlight spills softly across a border of glass bottles, emerald, cobalt, and honey brown. Each one, once forgotten trash, now glows like a jewel among marigolds and asters. The garden hums with gentle life. Bees drift lazily over blossoms while the crisp air carries the scent of soil and dew. The bottle blossom border was born from a small idea that beauty doesn't always come from what's new, but from what's given another chance. A row of recycled glass, half buried in earth, now defines the rhythm of the flower beds. The edges curve like watercolor strokes along the path, guiding visitors with a shimmer of reflected light. Each bottle tells its own story, perhaps once part of a family's dinner, or a toast to something long forgotten. Now, it captures sunlight instead of dust, framing the blooms that dance behind it. Painted in pastels of mint, peach, and sky blue, the border complements the wild charm of the chrysanthemums, marigolds, and Japanese anemones swaying nearby. In autumn's cool embrace, the border becomes more than decoration. It is a line between what was discarded and what was reborn. Children stop to watch the reflections move across the petals. Neighbors pause to ask where they can find such a simple yet stunning idea. And every gardener who walks by realizes, creativity blooms from the smallest acts of renewal. As dusk arrives, the bottles glisten under the last rays of light, catching the pink hue of sunset. The flowers seem to glow from within, as if thanking the glass for framing their colors. Here, in this tiny yard, a collection of old bottles has transformed into a living necklace around nature's heart, proof that in the right hands, even trash can whisper poetry. When dusk falls upon a small garden, and the air turns cool with whispers of autumn, the coconut shell fairy lights begin to glow. From the arms of an old bamboo pergola, hollowed shells sway gently, each one hand-carved and kissed by light. Their warm flicker spills patterns of stars and petals across the wooden bench below, dancing between the blooms of asters and chrysanthemums. No one would guess these once lay forgotten, brown husks tossed aside after a meal, rough and ordinary. But in this garden, they are reborn as gentle lanterns, glowing with humble pride. The tiny perforations carved into each shell tell a quiet story of patience and imagination. When the wind moves, they sway together like a soft melody of light and shadow, a lullaby written for the flowers. The gardener sits nearby with a cup of tea, watching as the marigolds shimmer gold under the shell's warm glow. The air smells faintly of coconut oil and fresh soil. It feels timeless, as if the garden itself is exhaling peace. Neighbors walking by pause at the fence, caught by the sight of tiny constellations flickering in the dark. Here, in the heart of a tiny yard, the lights are more than decoration. They are a reminder that magic hides in the simplest materials, in the shell of a fruit, in the curve of a recycled object, in hands willing to see beyond what is thrown away. As night deepens, the lights form a constellation of their own, gently illuminating the faces of flowers now at rest. The coconut shells glow softly, not from electricity alone, but from a quiet sense of renewal, proof that even what's discarded can become a beacon. In this rustic corner, beneath the gentle hum of night insects and the soft rustle of leaves, the garden breathes in harmony with its handmade stars. And once again, waste becomes wonder. There's something poetic about a door that no longer opens. In the heart of a small backyard, old doors stand upright, their hinges long quiet, their handles rusted smooth by time. But rather than being discarded, they've been reborn, painted in soft shades of mint, cream, and robin's egg blue, transformed into a living, vintage door trellis wall. Once an entrance to forgotten rooms, these doors now welcome life of a different kind. Climbing roses and ivy curl along their frames, weaving stories of growth and renewal. Chrysanthemums bloom at their feet, while marigolds add splashes of sunlit yellow that brighten every weathered panel. The scent of anemone drifts through the air, blending with the earthy perfume of the garden soil. Each door tells a story. One still bears the faint pattern of peeling paint, another holds a vintage keyhole, now filled with the stem of a trailing vine. Together they form a patchwork wall of history and hope, a rustic backdrop where the old world meets new bloom. As the afternoon sun glows golden, the trellis wall becomes a living painting. Shadows of leaves stretch gently across faded wood, and the hum of bees echoes softly between the cracks. It's not just decoration, it's a memory reclaimed, a symbol that beauty can stand tall even after its purpose has changed. At dusk, the gardener steps back to admire the transformation. The doors no longer lead to rooms but to moments where the past meets petals, where age meets renewal. And in the quiet glow of twilight, it becomes clear, this wall is not about what has been lost, but what can be reimagined. The vintage door trellis wall stands as a tribute to time, artistry, and the endless possibility hidden in what others call waste. In this small garden, the forgotten has found its way home again. When sunlight kisses glass, the garden begins to sing. In this tiny backyard, where space is precious and creativity blooms freely, a once plain fence now glows with a spectrum of color. Recycled glass bottles, green, cobalt, amber, and rose, line the panels like a stained glass mural. This is colorful bottle fence art, a cheerful tribute to upcycling and the joy of renewal. Each bottle was once forgotten, tossed aside, dull and purposeless. But now, under the morning light, they've become the heart of the garden. The sun filters through them, scattering fragments of color across marigolds and asters below. Every hour, the fence changes character, pale gold at dawn, sparkling sapphire by noon, and deep ruby when evening arrives. The gardener didn't design it for perfection, only for joy. They arranged bottles by instinct, guided by what felt alive. A blue beside a green, a clear bottle next to a painted pink one. The pattern feels spontaneous, yet it brings harmony to the space. Bees buzz by, drawn not only by the flowers but by the glimmering light that moves across the petals. Children love it most. They trace their hands along the glowing bottles, laughing as the colors dance on their skin. To them, it's a wall of magic. To the gardener, it's proof that beauty can rise from anything, even trash. When dusk falls, small fairy lights behind the fence bring the glass to life again. The colors soften, blending into the warm hues of the setting sun. The fence no longer serves just as a divider, it's a living artwork, breathing light into every shadow. In the stillness of evening, as wind rustles through the marigolds, the garden hums quietly. The bottles gleam like memories of laughter, of renewal, of a day well spent. And in that glow, one truth becomes clear: the simplest acts, saving a bottle, painting a color, planting a flower, can turn an ordinary backyard into a gallery of joy. In the heart of a small farmhouse garden, a row of humble coconut shells finds new life. Once tossed aside, rough and unpolished, they now sit proudly along the garden edge, each one a tiny vessel of color and renewal. This is the rustic coconut planter row, where simplicity blossoms into elegance. Each shell has been lovingly cleaned, painted in hues of cream, blush, and mint, and filled with fertile soil that cradles the roots of marigolds and asters. Their shapes, imperfect yet beautiful, catch the eye and invite a smile. The sunlight glides gently across them, tracing the curve of each planter, making them shimmer like nature's own pottery. The gardener remembers the day they were collected, fallen from the coconut grove after a summer storm. What was once debris now lines the garden's border, creating a rhythm of color and texture that feels alive. Between them, small patches of moss grow, and tiny beetles wander like silent caretakers of the earth. Children walking past the fence often stop to look closer. "Are those coconuts?" they ask, amazed at how something so simple could hold such beauty. And indeed, that's the essence of this creation, to see the extraordinary in the ordinary, to turn what's thrown away into a home for life to bloom again. By evening, as the sky turns amber, the planters seem to glow softly. The chrysanthemums bow with the breeze, brushing lightly against their coconut cradles. The scene feels complete, a harmony between human touch and nature's design. In the quiet that follows, the gardener reflects, it doesn't take luxury to create beauty, only care, vision, and a willingness to see beyond waste. The rustic coconut planter row stands not as a decoration, but as a gentle reminder that renewal is a simple act of love, repeated in every small corner of the earth. And when dawn returns, the garden greets another day of quiet wonder, each coconut shell shining under morning dew, holding within it the fragile, eternal promise of life reborn. The creak of an old hinge once meant goodbye, a door closing, a chapter ending. But in this small garden, that sound has changed. Here, an old door stands reborn, no longer leading into a house but into a world of green and bloom. This is the upcycled door garden gate, where memories become entrances to beauty. The door itself was once forgotten, its paint flaking, its handle dull. But with a coat of soft sage green and a touch of imagination, it now welcomes life instead of shutting it away. The iron handle gleams faintly in the sun, and ivy has begun to curl lovingly around its frame. Beyond it lies a path lined with marigolds and asters, a passage from the ordinary into the serene. Every morning, sunlight passes through the tiny cracks of the wood, spilling golden stripes onto the stone path below. Bees hum softly, hovering near the flowers that seem to bow toward the gate as if greeting an old friend. The sound of wind brushing against the door's surface brings whispers of its past, but the garden has given it peace. Visitors often stop to take photos. Some touch the wood gently, feeling the warmth it carries, the quiet story of renewal beneath the paint. It's more than a gate, it's an idea, that nothing truly ends, it only changes form. At sunset, when the light softens, the gate seems almost alive. Its color deepens, its edges glow faintly under the amber sky. Through it, one can see the silhouettes of flowers bending in the breeze, their colors blurring into art. The gardener smiles each time they pass through. This isn't just an entryway. It's a daily reminder that beauty can be built from the remnants of what once was. The upcycled door garden gate doesn't just open, it invites hope to walk in. And as night settles over the backyard, the door stands quietly, guarding not the house, but the heart of the garden, a symbol of how the past, when tended with care, can open into something endlessly new. In a world of noise and rush, the smallest gardens whisper the loudest peace. Nestled within a modest backyard lies the tiny yard bottle fountain, a delicate upcycled sculpture that turns discarded glass into a symphony of water and light. At first glance, it's simple, a few green and cobalt bottles stacked with care, their openings aligned to guide a gentle trickle of water into a waiting basin below. But when sunlight hits the glass, the entire scene transforms. Blue reflections shimmer over marigold petals, a droplet glides down the side of a bottle like liquid crystal. The sound is soft, just enough to hush the world beyond the fence. Each bottle once served another life, perhaps on a dinner table, a forgotten shelf, or at a seaside cafe. Now, they sing again, this time in harmony with the earth. Around the fountain, chrysanthemums sway gently as bees sip from petals glistening with mist. Sedum plants hug the stones, catching tiny beads of water that fall from above. As dusk approaches, the gardener sits nearby, the scent of anemone in the cool air. The fountain glows under hidden lights, each droplet reflecting tiny stars. In this tiny yard, space no longer matters. Every corner feels infinite when filled with care. The water's rhythm becomes meditation, and the glass bottles, once trash, now seem alive, transparent vessels carrying not just water, but renewal. Neighbors often stop by, drawn by the sound. How can something so small feel so grand? They ask. The gardener smiles softly. Because beauty flows from what we give back to the world. In the stillness of evening, the fountain hums like a memory, a song of transformation. It reminds anyone who listens that nature needs little more than imagination and love to bloom. The tiny yard bottle fountain stands quietly, proof that serenity can spring from waste, and that in the smallest trickle, one can hear the voice of a living garden. When the wind drifts through the garden, the air carries a song, soft, wooden, and tender. It's not from metal or machine, but from the humble hands of nature itself. This is the Coconut Wind Chime Corner, where recycled shells sing to the sky. Along the pergola, coconut shells hang like brown moons, their surfaces etched with small holes and floral carvings. Each piece catches light differently, some gleam golden, others rest in shadow, creating a living rhythm between sound and silence. When the wind comes, they move together, whispering in a language only the garden understands. Below them, marigolds glow like embers, and asters stretch upward, as if listening. The fragrance of chrysanthemums drifts through the air, mingling with the earthy scent of coconut fiber and soil. A gentle clink echoes every few seconds, a lullaby for anyone who lingers nearby. Once, these shells were waste, discarded after their fruit was gone. But now they hold new purpose, proof that beauty can emerge from what's left behind. The gardener carved each one patiently, sanding edges smooth, adding tiny floral holes so light could filter through. At sunset, that light dances along the ground, tiny fragments flickering over petals and leaves. Neighbors often stop by and smile. "It sounds like the sea," they say. Indeed, there's a quiet oceanic calm in their tone, as if each chime carries a whisper of tropical shores. At night, when fairy lights flicker softly between the chimes, the sound becomes gentler still, barely a breath, a sigh, a memory. It reminds everyone that gardens are not just for the eyes, but for the ears and the soul. The coconut wind chime corner doesn't demand attention, it invites peace. It transforms air into melody and waste into wonder. In this little sanctuary, under the soft song of shells and wind, one learns that even silence can bloom, and that the most delicate music often begins with the smallest gesture of renewal. The garden doesn't need an ocean to breathe the sea. In this small patio, the seaside door patio backdrop brings the calm of the coast into a backyard far from the waves. Here, a collection of weathered doors, once abandoned and dull, has been reborn in hues of turquoise and sand, echoing the rhythm of tides and wind. Each door carries its own grain, its own story. Once a barrier between rooms, now it opens the imagination. The soft shades of seafoam and driftwood blue shimmer under morning light, their peeling paint a reminder of gentle imperfection. Beneath them, marigolds and sedum bloom like coral reefs rising through soil instead of salt water. The air carries the faint scent of the ocean, even if only imagined. Wind moves through the ivy and anemones, creating a soft rustle like distant waves. A few hanging glass bottles catch the light, glinting like sea glass. A touch of driftwood leans against the door, worn smooth by time and memory. Visitors often pause here, unsure whether they're in a garden or a dream. The pale colors suit the mind, and the door panels frame the flowers like open windows to another world. The gardener sits quietly nearby, watching how the evening sun turns the doors golden, how the shadows of petals fall across their surfaces like whispers. When night comes, the string lights awaken, glowing softly against the turquoise panels. The doors seem to hum with peace, a mural of reclaimed wood and memory, offering serenity to anyone who sits before it. This corner isn't just decor, it's a feeling, one that reminds us that beauty can come from anywhere, even from forgotten things once left to fade. The seaside door patio backdrop transforms a small patch of earth into a coastal haven, where the waves are made of wind, the shells of flowers, and the horizon of painted doors. And in the hush of twilight, as light melts into blue, it becomes clear, you don't need the sea to feel its calm, only imagination, color, and a door that leads nowhere but home. Every step tells a story. In the gentle hush of a backyard filled with blooms, the junk bottle mosaic pathway glimmers beneath the sun, a trail built from fragments of what was once forgotten. Each glass piece, cut from an old bottle, now lies embedded in stone, reflecting light like tiny jewels scattered by nature herself. What was once trash, broken glass, old wine bottles, soda containers, has been reborn as art. The path winds softly through marigolds and sedum, its surface catching the sunlight in playful bursts of color. Emerald merges into cobalt, amber melts into clear silver tones. With each step, the garden seems to glow from within, as if joy itself were buried just beneath the surface. The gardener remembers collecting the bottles, cleaning and cutting them by hand, piecing together patterns of waves, spirals, and stars. It wasn't about perfection, it was about renewal. The sound of each bottle shattering became the rhythm of rebirth, the moment when trash became treasure. Children loved to run barefoot on its smooth stones, laughing as the reflections dance across their toes. In the evening, when garden lights flicker to life, the pathway transforms into a glowing ribbon of color, a constellation of recycled dreams guiding the way through twilight. Each section of glass holds a memory, a toast shared, a celebration, a quiet evening long past. Now they live again beneath the sky, merging human stories with the whisper of the earth. Neighbors often stop to ask, "How did you think of this?" The gardener simply smiles. "You just have to look twice." At night, when the wind settles and the flowers rest, the mosaic still shimmers faintly, as if remembering the day's light. It reminds anyone who passes that beauty isn't something found, it's something made. The junk bottle mosaic pathway isn't merely a walkway, it's a journey of transformation. Every color, every glint, every step celebrates the truth that nothing is truly wasted. not glass, not effort, not hope. And under the watchful stars, the garden glows, a quiet masterpiece born from the courage to see beauty where others saw only junk.